Hey everyone, welcome back to Toori, your source of understanding world events in the simplest way possible. Today we are diving into one of the biggest global events of the decade, the US elections 2024. You have probably seen it all over the news, candidates giving fiery speeches, debates on live TV, and people lining up to vote. But what really happens behind the scenes? How does the election system work? And most importantly, why do the US elections matter to the entire world, not just to Americans? Stay tuned till the end because this video will break down everything in an easy way from how Americans choose their president to how those choices affect politics, trade, and peace across the globe. Let's get started. 1. What are the US elections? The United States hold elections every 4 years to choose its president. The election decides who will lead one of the most powerful countries in the world. The president has major influence over the economy, foreign policy, military, and even global issues like climate change. 2. How the US election system works. Unlike many countries where the person with the most votes wins, the US uses a system called the electoral college. Here is how it works in simple terms. Each US state has a certain number of electoral votes based on its population. There are 538 total votes, and a candidate needs 270 votes to win. People in each state vote for their favorite candidate, and the winner of the state usually gets all its electoral votes. So sometimes a candidate can get more people's vote overall but still lose the election if they don't win enough states. This happened in 2016 when Hillary Clinton got more votes than Donald Trump, but Trump won because of the electoral college system. 3. The main political parties. There are two main political parties in the US. Democrats, usually more liberal and focus on social issues, climate change, and equality. Republicans, usually more conservative and focus on business, national security, and traditional values. In 2024, the major competition was again expected between these two parties. The Democrats and Republicans represented two very different visions of America's future, and that's why the world paid close attention. 4. Important stages of election. The election is not just one day of voting, it's a long process that takes nearly 2 years to complete. Here are the main stages. Primaries. Each party votes internally to choose its main candidate. Party conventions. The chosen candidate is officially announced. Debates. Candidates are on national TV to win people's trust. Election day. People across the country cast their votes. Inauguration. The new president takes office in January the next year. Each stage is filled with campaigns, advertisements, and discussions that shape public opinion. 5. Why the US elections matter globally. You might wonder, why do people outside America care so much about the US elections? Here is why. The United States is the world's largest economy and the global superpower. Its president makes decisions that can affect other countries' economies, security, and environment. For example, if the US changes its trade policies, it affects exports and imports around the world. If the US changes its foreign policy, it can impact peace and wars in other countries. If the US signs or cancels climate agreements, it affects global warming efforts. That's why leaders from Asia, Europe, and Middle East and Africa all watch closely who becomes the next US president. 6. The economic impact when a new US president takes office. Global markets react immediately. Stock prices, oil rates, and currency values can rise or fall depending on the new government's policies. For instance, a Republican president might cut taxes and increase oil production, which affects global fuel prices. A Democrat president might increase government spending on clean energy, which boosts the renewable energy market. So, even if you live outside the US, your job, business, or prices can be influenced by who wins the election. 7. Impact on peace and war. The United States has military bases around the world and plays a key role in international security. The president decides whether to support wars, peace treaties, or humanitarian missions. For example, some presidents prefer diplomacy and solving conflicts peacefully. Others focus on military strength and defending US interests more aggressively. This means that the world's stability, especially in places like the Middle East, Eastern Europe, and Asia, can shift depending on who leads the US. 8. Climate change and global environment. Climate change is a worldwide issue, and the US is a big part of the solution or problem. The president decides whether the US joins international climate efforts like the Paris Agreement. A Democratic president usually supports renewable energy and global cooperation. A Republican president may focus more on the economy and less on environmental regulations. These choices can affect how quickly and slowly the world fights climate change. 9. Relationships with other countries. Every president brings a new style of foreign policy. Some are friendly toward countries like China, Russia, or Iran, while others take a tougher stance. For example, the US-China relationships affects global trade and technology. The US-Russia relationship impacts global security and energy markets. The US-Europe relationship shapes NATO, the world diplomacy. So the results of the US elections can reshape international friendships and rivalries. 10. The role of media and social media. In the modern world, the US elections are heavily influenced by social media platforms like X, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. Millions of Americans get their news from social media instead of TV. Campaigns use online ads, memes, and videos to attract voters, especially the younger generation. However, misinformation also spreads quickly. That's why fact checking and media literacy are becoming more important than ever. 11. Key issues in the 2024 election. In 2024 election, revolved around several major issues that voters cared about deeply: inflation and the economy, migration policies, healthcare reforms, gun control, climate change, foreign policy. Each candidate represented their plan on how to deal with these problems, and voters choose the one by they believe will handle them best. 12. How the world reacts to the US elections. When the election results come out, leaders from around the world quickly send their congratulations or concerns. Financial markets react within hours. Countries adjust their policies depending on whether they expect cooperation or conflict with the new US president. For many nations, the US election is not just an American event, it's a global turning point. What do you expect after every time the elections of US, no matter who wins, the next US president will face huge challenges every time: rebuilding global trust, managing economic instability, and addressing climate change. The world is more connected than ever before, and the US cannot act alone. The decisions made in Washington DC ripple through the world, from Asia to Africa to Europe. So here you have it, the US elections explained in simple words. It's not just about who becomes the next president every time of the United States. It's about how the choice shapes the future of the entire world. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on Toori for more easy to understand documentaries about global events and world politics. Let's keep learning together, because understanding the world makes us smarter and more united. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.